control stick was loose. I would not lend a hand. I see your face before, my friend. It was right after a game of Mario Kart. Well, I was there and I peeked on your screen when I got the blue shell. So I laughed my ass off, and when you crashed, it's all been bags of fun. And I like to play some San Francisco Rush tonight. Oh Lord, I've been waiting for some split screen action all week. Oh Lord, do you wanna play some San Francisco Rush tonight?
Hello and welcome to the third episode of Rewind and Play. This time, you see us Miami Vicing it up. That's because it's finally summer in Sweden. And to celebrate this, we're going to make a buyer's guide of our all-time favorite console, or at least my all-time favorite console.
The Nintendo 64.
That's right. We're not going to go through any games today, we're just going to go through the system and accessories and what you need to think of when you buy yourself a new system.
Right. So, shall we start with the base unit?
Yes.
This is the Nintendo 64 hardware.
This is as it was released in 1996 in Europe, I believe 1995 in Japan even.
Yeah.
Anyway, this console was in production from 1996 through, I believe, 2001. And we're going to start off with the main concerns you need to think of, the things you need to ask for when you see one of these on eBay or whatever.
Right. Main concern of the N64 is the controller. This is how it looked like. It's actually not the first video game controller to sport an analog stick, but the first one that did it well. The actual first one was the Atari 5200, but that controller didn't work at all.
The Sega Saturn also did it, but this one was the first to have it as standard with every single unit.
Yeah. So this is the control stick. I think it's really good, but you have to take care of it. Because when you play the Nintendo 64, you might wear out the control stick, and this is a common problem. The reason for that is because people who play Nintendo 64 tend to release the control stick when it's like this, or in this position, or in this position. Yeah, you mustn't release the control stick when it's in this position. I don't know if you see it very much, but you have to follow the control stick with your thumb. It's called a thumbstick actually. So you have to follow the control stick with your thumb. That prevents wearing out the stick.
Another thing that wears out the stick is certain mini games that are used in the first Mario Party, the ones where you're supposed to rotate the stick as quickly as possible. That really wears it out a lot. That's why my first N64 controller is completely unplayable today.
So, please avoid Mario Party 1 if you want your Nintendo 64 control stick to be alive.
To last.
Yeah. The next thing again is the control stick. You see, on my controller I have fitted a replacement stick. You can find it for like $10–12, something like that, on the internet or games shops. And this is the original thumbstick. As you can see, it's pretty worn out. It's terrible. It
yeah,
is
it wobbles
unplayable.
about everywhere.
It wobbles. You can't play games as you should play it
Yeah,
because it wobbles.
and it doesn't even register full movement anymore.
So, buy yourself a replacement stick, fit it in, just unbolt some screws, and pop it in. And please stay away from sticks like these. These are like $2-3. It's a pure one hung glue stick. These are not fake, but
Well,
you have to know how to solder, and you have to know all the schematics of a Nintendo 64 control stick. Because look at these, it's cords about everywhere popping out from the stick, and look at these.
All
It has
from
a
one place.
small contact.
Yeah.
Also, these control sticks have 6 cables coming out of them, and these 100 Lu fake sticks has just 4 cables. So you have to know how to solder a Nintendo 64 control stick cable.
Overall, it does seem to have poor quality because
Look at
you've
the-
never actually used this, right?
No,
And it is already a little bit wobbly. It moves with no effort whatsoever.
look at the cheap ass plastic.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the wrong. And the top. I don't know if you can tell this, but on an actual N64, the top is rounded,
Yeah.
as you might be able to tell. Here, it's just flat and ridged. So,
The grip is worse because you slip all
And-
the time with your
and,
thumb.
yeah, and the edges feel a lot sharper as well
Yeah.
than on the original. So, yeah, better invest in the slightly more expensive versions.
And I forgot to say, there's one more kind of control stick, and that's the GameCube type of stick. You can buy these for the Nintendo 64 controller. It's essentially the same price as the original, but I bought this original kind of stick because I like the feeling of the original Nintendo 64 controller. But the GameCube type of stick is much more rigid. It doesn't wear out as easy if not handled properly.
It's overall
More robust.
yeah, I believe it has even a rubber top like the GameCube controller.
Yeah,
that
it has.
Yeah, quite simply an overall more modern feel. So you've got the choice of whether you want a
Classic
more
or new.
Yeah, classic or modern.
Yeah.
The second thing you need to think of, which is quite common on the N64, is the reset button. If you whack it really hard, sometimes it gets stuck, and you essentially have to unscrew the console to get it unstuck. This makes the console fail at times when you try to start it up. It's not a huge problem. It's not that difficult to fix. Just unscrew it, remove both parts of the cover. But you need specialist tools, so if you see a console with this problem, I think you can knock off a few bucks.
Yeah. One great thing about the Nintendo 64 is the power brick or AC adapter, as we call it, because this AC adapter actually fits directly into the console, like this. Smart. It's perfect design. You don't have this huge brick that you have for an Xbox 360, for example, or a ColecoVision. Because
But that is also one of the flaws with the system.
Yeah.
I've had 2 of these burn out on me, and it makes the console basically unplayable.
Yeah.
Also, it's a fire hazard, of course, if it's burned out.
So one thing you should think of is when you're not playing, please unplug the system, because it saves the AC adapter. If it's not in use, please unplug it.
Also, I've seen this online. Nowadays, an AC adapter, a standalone AC adapter, costs about $30, $40, $50 if you even can find one on eBay. So when you buy one on eBay or wherever, ask if the AC adapter works.
Yeah.
And if the person isn't sure, yet again, knock off a few bucks.
We're recording? Right.
When the N64 was launched in 1996, it came with a built-in piece of RAM memory like this. It's a 4 meg RAM, and it was fully sufficient for the games that came out at the time. Nintendo were planning to launch a disc add-on called the 64DD. It only came out in Japan, but nonetheless, the piece of RAM that they developed to make the disc system run actually came out. It actually came out to augment games that came out in Europe. And this is what the system looks like with the RAM memory. You can see this red pepper pots sort of texture here.
This is the expansion RAM that expands the RAM to 8 megabytes.
That's correct. Originally, the console came with a red label here. So if someone takes a picture for you, make sure that it's sharp so you can see whether it's a sticker or actually a red piece of plastic. This piece of RAM actually enables a lot of games to look way better, and many games actually require that to run. Games like Donkey Kong 64, Zelda Majora's Mask, and Perfect Dark do actually require it, but many more games like Star Wars Rogue Squadron look way better with the accessory in. So you can buy third-party RAM memories, or used to be able in-game. They used to sell them. I'm not sure about how it is now, but a N64 original alone costs a lot of money. It's considerably cheaper to actually buy an N64 which already has it. So yet again, when you're online, ask whether the system does have an expansion pack. If the person selling the system to you isn't sure, make sure to ask them to open the system and take a picture for you, because a lot of people aren't as tech savvy. They don't even realize that the N64 had this RAM expansion. And
some games came with the RAM expansion, or the RAM expansion itself came with some games. For example, Donkey Kong 64. So if you come across Donkey Kong 64 complete, you should have this RAM pack as well, but just in the complete set.
Yeah,
which means
exactly.
The box, the manual, everything. And that can be expensive.
And the natural thing whenever you buy a system, whatever system it is, make sure that it does have all the cables. Finding a video cable without a console is pretty tough. It'll be easier and cheaper probably just buying a second console essentially.
And when we talk about the video cable, this is the Nintendo 64 AV cable. It's got a video, stereo outputs, and this plug should go into the Nintendo 64. And it doesn't only go into the Nintendo 64, it actually fits on Super Nintendo and the GameCube as well.
So it's a very useful cable.
And you should have with the system a SCART connector, and that is especially for us in Europe here, because we have those SCART connectors in the TV.
Yeah, yet again, that's a thing that's quite difficult nowadays to find at just laying around on eBay. It's always packaged with something, so make sure to ask whether this SCART connector is actually included. It's not the end of the world, because many modern flat TVs do have these
On the side.
yeah, they do have these sockets, so perhaps if you have a proper TV, you won't need it, but nonetheless, ask for it. And if it isn't included, make sure to bargain a bit.
Exactly.
When the Nintendo 64 launched, it was only available in black. However, Nintendo were considerate enough to offer the controllers in different colors, and the accessories, the memory cards and the rumble packs, in matching colors as well. It was in basically every prime color, so there was yellow, red, green and blue.
And also transparent colors.
Yeah, although those came much later.
Yeah.
The Nintendo 64 actually never got a proper facelift. I mean, not the way we think of it today, or even back then. I mean, Nintendo did launch a slim version of the NES, of the SNES. They later launched a slim version of the DS and the Wii and everything else. But the Nintendo 64 never got a true redesign. There was the Pikachu N64, but unless you're a die-hard collector, I don't think you want to have that. However, in 1999 or 2000, somewhere around that point in time, Nintendo did launch a bunch of translucent colors of the system. And I have here the probably most sought after one. It's the two-tone sort of iMac console with the translucent white bottom and translucent magenta top, or pardon, turquoise top. And not only that, I actually have a matching controller. If you're a geek like me, if you really love the system, I think you should go out and look for one of the translucent colors, because they look great. There's pink and there's orange and every color under the sun, essentially. So if you're looking for an N64, I recommend you to go looking for it and try to find a matching controller. It's completely unnecessary, but it's great fun, and it's great bragging rights to have a completely matched different looking N64. The N64 has a quite unique layout with the three handles. The thought behind this was, firstly, at the time Nintendo were developing the system, the future of 3D gaming wasn't quite secure yet. A lot of people thought that 3D gaming was something that was exclusively good for fighting games, racing games, first-person shooters. So Nintendo basically thought that if 3D fails, if it turns out that people will want to continue playing 2D, you'll be able to play the console like this and just ignore the analog stick, because the analog stick was developed for 3D gaming. Nintendo at that time used to call it a 3D stick. Another thought behind it was that if you're left-handed, you can play the other way around. So basically, this takes place of the C button, the D-pad, and well, everything's just reversed. This is, I mean, N64 lovers have come to love this console, this controller. The ergonomics are actually excellent. The only flaw I have is that the two handles are too close together, but it's not that big of a problem, as you can see. I mean, the profile of these handles is amazing.
It's very ergonomical.
Yeah, exactly. The way the trigger lays in your hand. I mean, I'm sorry, but no console has been this comfortable ever since the N64 controller. But there are flaws with it. Like I said, it's unconventional. The analog stick wears out. The D-pad is a bit difficult to get to because it is actually used in certain games, and the L button as well. So what I got was a bit of a rarity from which I ordered on eBay from Japan, and that is the Hori Mini. And that is the Hori Mini. The Hori Mini was launched at the very end of the N64's lifespan. However, it was a massive hit in Japan. If you go online on eBay, you'll see them in huge quantities in every color that Nintendo themselves made the controllers in. So you wonder, why is this controller so amazing? Well, first off, it's only got two handles, so it's much more like, let's say, an Xbox controller or a PlayStation controller or a Dreamcast controller or whatever. The second thing is the analog stick, which is very much like the GameCube edition. It's got a rubberized top, it's got the big ball in the bottom that doesn't wear out. One flaw that the stick does have, of course, is that it's actually quite sensitive. But like I said, these are very well built controllers. If you can find one online, use on eBay, I highly recommend it. I think that every single N64 owner who is really passionate about the console should get one. And I don't know how much else to tell about it. It's got the D-pad is in a very strange position. I think that the ergonomics would have been much better if the controller would actually have been a bit wider, if the D-pad would have been somewhere around here, because right now you can see my fingers are not quite holding on to it because, well, my hands are a little bit too big.
And it can be strange when playing some games, for example Mischief Makers, when you use the C buttons and the D-pad.
Yeah, but like I said, for the collectors, this is a great piece of kit. I highly recommend it.
Right.
Another controller which I can recommend, which I don't actually have, for those people who aren't comfortable with the 3-grip position of the standard N64 controller, there is something called the Mako pad or the Super Pad, which also has two grips, and it's got a very similar to the original analog stick, but it's actually out of metal, so it doesn't wear out. So you can take a look into that as well. Also, one thing I saw on eBay, which was extremely expensive, yet again, which I don't have, was a twin analog stick controller. I only think that it actually works with GoldenEye and Perfect Dark in the two control setups, but still, really cool thing. If you're a really die-hard person who has it, I would love for you to post a video to tell us how it works. But like I said, these are the controllers most people will have.
The sun is setting on Skövde, and this is everything from our Nintendo 64 special. So go buy these, buy 4 controllers, buy GoldenEye. It's the only game you need.
And don't forget to follow us and our game on YouTube and on IndieDB. We post new screenshots several times a week.
And on Twitter and on Facebook.
Yeah, at CavelightEnt is our address. And of course, our homepage is cavelight.se.